Well, as we mentioned in the Scope Out, the announcement for Warsoup has been a popular topic on the gaming forums lately.
Absolutely, Shibby. And joining us right now via Skype to talk about their creation is Moon Studio game director and one of the artists behind StarCraft 2, Mr. Thomas Mahler. Thomas, how's it going, buddy?
Hey, how are you guys doing?
Oh, we are doing awesome, and thank you so much for staying up. Thomas is coming to us live from Austria. Thomas, happy holidays. And before we get started, I was just wondering if you could introduce yourself a little bit. Can you tell us about yourself and how you ended up working on Warsoup?
Okay, so my name is Thomas Mahler. I'm the game director on Warsoup, and I'm also one of the founders of Moon Studios. I've been working as a character artist in this industry for a couple of years now. I've been working at studios. I've been working as a freelancer. At some point, Blizzard Entertainment called me up, asked me to come over to California to work on StarCraft 2. And even while I was at Blizzard, I was always interested in independent games because I love this notion that is going on right now, where smaller teams can come together and create independent games and can tackle really complex problems, and create games that are really, really cool that you otherwise probably wouldn't see from bigger studios. And at some point we were working on a small 2D game, that was already a version of Warsoup. And at some point we said, hey, this is really cool. We're going to go full scale with this. We're going to found Moon Studios, and we're going to, do something that we really, really love.
All right, Thomas, very awesome stuff. Super happy that you founded Moon Studio because now you're working on Warsoup. And can you tell us a little bit, what's the basic concept behind the game?
Okay, so basically in the introduction video that we showed, we already said, hey, it's a real-time strategy first-person shooter. I think that caused some confusion because the real-time strategy part, a lot of people already always associate, hey, it's about top-down perspective, right? So where's my top-down perspective? We don't have any top-down perspective in Warsoup. So basically, when I came to Blizzard, I thought I knew a lot about RTS games, and I was like, hey, you guys, I'm ready, right? But I really had to learn a lot of stuff, like how RTS games really work. And there are elements, that we're focusing on in Warsoup that are really, the core of RTS, which is, resource management, map control, build order, macro and micro, and timing. And so basically we're saying, hey, look, the micro element is Halo, and the macro element that we have in Warsoup is basically StarCraft, right? And there's an incredibly strong focus on economy, which is basically we've never really seen in another FPS game like that. It's not like we're the first ones who have a mixed FPS and RTS, but it's a very unique approach.
It is very awesome. And can you basically break down the game for us? Tell us what format is the game played in, as in 1v1 to 4v4, and how would an average match play out?
Okay, so basically right now we're completely focused on balance, right? So we're saying, hey, it's a 1v1 and 2v2 game, and later on, if the community wants that, we can add 3v3 and we can add 4v4, but it's going to be harder to balance that. So basically, if you played StarCraft, you already sort of know, where we're going with this, where we're saying, hey, at the beginning, you start building up your economy. You want to go for upgrades. You want to scout your enemy. You want to find out what your enemy is going for. You want to use the right counter. And at the same time, you can also always go for a rush and say, hey, economy, I don't need that. I'll just put all my resources into army, and I'm going to rush my opponent. But if that doesn't work, then you're in quite some trouble because you're way behind in terms of economy, and your enemy is probably going to rush you back, right?
Absolutely.
We have two winning conditions in Warsoup. So basically, it's not like Call of Duty or Halo, right? We're going into a very different direction where it's not just about slaying, right? We're saying, hey, there are two winning conditions. Either you destroy all structures that your enemy is building, and you don't because the opponent is actually respawning. You're always respawning either at your base or at your expansions. And if you destroy both those structures and you destroy the enemy, then it's a forced GG. That's what we call a forced GG. But a lot of times, what will happen is exactly what happens in a game like StarCraft or in chess, where if you think chess, it's you just surrender. You give up when you say, hey, I only have 2 pawns and maybe a bishop and a king, and my enemy has still a queen left and, 2 knights and a ton of pawns and maybe a bishop. I know that in the next 5 moves you will, outclass me. You will checkmate me, right? So what will happen a lot in a game like Warsoup, which makes it so very different than any other FPS game, is that you will know that, hey, my enemy has map control, my enemy has a better economy. I am basically dead at this point. I'm just waiting for the enemy to storm the base, to destroy my structures. Hey, it's GG, I surrender.
Very cool stuff. Now, can you talk to us a little bit briefly about the RTS elements? And then, of course, I got to get into the FPS stuff. But let's start with the real-time strategy elements built into Warsoup.
Okay, so right now in this build that we've shown, we have bases, we have expansions, and you can upgrade both of those to get more income. There are 3 turret types that we're currently building, that we currently have in the game. So turrets are there for defense. You can also use them for offense. You can play around with strategies, and we are currently, the game is still in a relatively early development phase. And what we showed was like, an early development phase. But we're playing around with buildings and with trying, to get abilities and, like creating buildings to get abilities, and we're still playing around with a lot of those concepts, trying to get a good balance and trying to make a game that is really, really cool, really new, and it's perfectly balanced, and that's our challenge.
Awesome. And let's now move on to the first-person shooter elements that you've built in. First off, got to talk real quick about the Uplink. I absolutely love that you built the Uplink into the game. It's kind of like a built-in system, or sorry, screen watching. You can see what your teammate is doing in the bottom right the entire game long. And you also went with a very basic and simplistic graphic design here. Talk to me about these 2 elements.
Okay, so let's tackle the Uplink first. The Uplink is, like you said, we basically looked at Halo, and if you play a team game, you absolutely always have to know what your ally is doing, right? That's already very important in a team game scenario like in Halo, right? But then if you're actually talking about a strategy game where it's really much, much more important even, because you need to know what weapon your ally is using and when he's attacking. Is he in trouble or is he not in trouble? And it's very hard to coordinate that if you just have audio, to go from. And it's like, okay, we add video to that. You have this little uplink, this little texture in the bottom right corner of the screen. And so it's a simple feature that I'd love to see in a lot of team-based games, because it really keeps you in touch with what your ally is doing and makes it so much easier to communicate with your friend, right?
Yeah, totally communication without even talking. Love that. You also put in the simple designs, but Thomas, let's move on a little bit and talk about the game in general. I'm sorry, first off, I got to check out the abilities that you built into the game. Can you talk about some of the first-person shooter stuff that you put in there?
Okay, so in Warsoup we have 3 classes. And each class has different abilities and very unique abilities. In this video here, we're showing the Marine. And with the Marine, you're already a very fast build, but you'll be able to upgrade to a dash ability, which means that the Marine will actually use his plasma speed to get from one point to the other in a much faster way, right? And then you can use your economy to say, hey, I want to reach other platforms much, much easier. So you can upgrade to the double jump, which we're showing right now, right? So you can actually jump on those platforms, and it's much, much easier, to run away from your enemy or just, use it to get map control. I think we're also showing the charge jump, where you upgrade to the charge jump, and the charge jump is amazing because you will be able to hold down the jump key and just make really high jumps, right? So you can use it, for example, as in an attack for, charge jumping into your enemy space, dropping a cluster grenade, and charge jumping the hell out there to just, cause a lot of damage and just to harass your opponent.
So nice balance of structures and abilities there. I also love the fact that you have the radial menu that we saw in Shadowrun, excuse me. I just blanked there. It's one of my favorite games, Shadowrun, of course. But Thomas, talk to us a little bit about how far the game is along in production. I'm starting to get to the user questions here.
Well, we're basically looking, when we founded Moon Studios, we said, okay, we want to be this really small company where we can add features really, really quickly, much quicker than in a big studio where each feature would have to go through a hierarchy of people. And we wanted to say, okay, look, we're going to build this vertical slice of the game that already feels really good. If you play the game right now, and a lot of people think, we're almost done, right? But that's not the case. We built this really solid foundation, and now we're able to, hey, those classes are there, so now let's build all those upgrades. Let's really make sure that the balance works. And it's hard to say, a percentage and the number of where we are with the game, but we're committed to quality, and it's a balance-based game. It's always very hard to say when we are going to be done, but there's going to be a closed beta. You guys are going to be able to play it. I just can't say when yet.
Okay, thank you. And that question was coming from MLG Space Chess. Next question here is from Crispy MLG Puck, which is weird because my name is Chris Puckett and MLG Puck. Anyway, moving on. Question is it intimidating trying to create a previously failed genre of FTS plus FPS?
Absolutely not, because I think, a lot of people compare us to games like Savage or Natural Selection, and if I look at those games, there is like nothing we have in common. Yes, it's also RTS and it's an FPS, but we are always looking at how do you take an inherently complex design and create a really simple interface. And you talked about the radial menu before. This works on consoles, this works on the PC, and it's really, really cool. We're trying to take something that is really simple and really deep, really complex and really deep, and make it as simple and as accessible as possible. And I think people will really like that.
Awesome. Very cool stuff. Thomas, final question. Everybody wants to know, what platforms will the game be available on? And you said we don't know exactly when we can see it, but is there going to be a beta coming?
There is going to be a closed beta coming. In terms of platforms, we chose technology where we can say, okay, we can port this to the PC, to the Mac, to the Xbox 360, to the PS3, and you will be able to play it in your browser, in Firefox or Chrome, by going to warsoup.com, and you'll play it in 60 frames in your browser. So that's pretty cool. How do you like that?
60 frames in your internet browser. Moon Studios doing absolutely huge things. Thomas Mahler, thank you so much for joining us. Guys, if you want to learn more about Warsoup, Thomas, where should they go to learn more about Warsoup?
Oh, you just go to warsoup.com, keep an eye on that website, and go to warsoup.com/boards to join the community. Can I actually add something real quick?
Yes, absolutely.
Okay, so when we founded Moon Studios, we said, hey, we're there for our community. We really listen to you guys. So I just want to give a quick shout out to Ern in our community. You're a really cool guy. You understand the game. Thanks for, being there. And First Aid, thanks for adding all those threads and, being active. We love you guys. Thank you very much.
Thomas, you are the man making dreams come true. If you're ever in New York City, stop by. I got to get you a drink. I can't wait for this game, man. Awesome stuff. If you ever need beta testers, Shibby and I, hit us up, man. All right, thanks, Thomas.
Thanks,